It's Florida, it's summertime, it's hot, and my RV fridge will not get cold. Today, we're gonna fix that. I'm Jesse, and you're watching Outside is Calling. In this video, first I'm gonna share some things you should check out to make sure your RV fridge does need replacement. Second, and the biggest part of this video, step by step the whole process of replacing the cooling unit for my Norcold RV fridge. Lastly, I'll show you the final install and just how cold this thing is. Here's a sneak peek. I've already done the work, and let's see how cold it is. 4 degrees up top, 43 in the fridge. It's pretty cold. Okay, here's a helpful and quick checklist for you to make sure your fridge is actually needing replacement. You want to check out both electric and propane modes and make sure that those are working correctly. You need to make sure that the fridge is level, or the RV is level, so it operates correctly. Next, you want to check your ventilation, make sure that there's nothing obstructing the back airflow of the cooling unit so it can get the heat out and shed the heat. Here's where I have a pro tip for you. If your fridge is not getting as cold as you'd like, you can stick a fan in the back and typically blow air across the coils in the back, which will help drop it a few extra degrees. However, just know that this is a temporary fix, and it does mean the unit's not operating as well as it should. You'll also want to test your thermostat and controls to make sure they're working correctly. Make sure you have good airflow inside. Another big one and common one is your door seals. Ambient temperature plays a big part too. Like I said, I'm in Florida, it's hot, it's summertime, and so this is a tough environment, and it's good to be realistic with how cold things should get. And then lastly is just the age and wear. I think the typical lifespan for an RV fridge is about 10 years plus or minus, so if you have a pretty old one, it might just be overdue for replacement. However, if you have a newer unit, you might do some extra checks here and make sure that it actually is failing and not one of these things mentioned in this checklist. And what excites me the most about this new fridge upgrade from JC Refrigeration, units we're making now actually have 2 compressors, a separate compressor for the freezer, a separate compressor for the fridge. So I'm excited that it will be more efficient but also more powerful if needed, because like where I'm at here in Florida, we need some cooling. So it's going to be up to the task to keep these boxes at their set points and keep things cold. Let's jump into the install. We're going to take the old cooling unit off of our fridge, put the new unit on, and reinstall the fridge. Okay, here's our new cooling unit. Large compressor on the left, small compressor on the right. Our heat exchangers above them, each with a fan. And the top is the actual cooling unit, which transmits the heat from the fridge and the cold to the fridge. Some insulation there. A little close up here of the heat exchangers. Each have a DC fan. You can see the supply and return from the upper cooling unit. That hole is going to be used later for a wire. Here's some of the wiring we'll be connecting to our power and to a controller later. Okay, let's see what's in the box. Comes with instructions, which we'll be walking through together in this video. This will be the control unit, which will replace our old control unit. Can of spray foam, a tube of thermomastic, some foil tape, and lastly, hardware to attach the unit, as well as a plug to plug our propane. The unit comes packaged with some extra foam and plastic just to help keep it safe for transit. I also have my son Tucker that's going to help us today with the install. So first I'm going to measure and see just where I can pull this refrigerator out and where I can get it out to work on. In my case, it's a pretty tight area. This is a bus, so it's not a large RV by no means, and getting it out and into an area I can work on it, it's gonna be tough. I measured, I have just enough room to get it out between the couch and the countertop there, but now I have nowhere to lay it down. So after some thoughtful thinking, I decided to go ahead and take the sofa off of the couch and utilize the couch wood frame as my base. So for the rest of this video, the fridge will be on its side. Each cooling unit from Dutchaire comes with this paperwork, serial number, and as well as the unit comes with a 3-year factory warranty with the option to purchase an additional 3 years. Now we're going to jump right into this installation manual. First page just kind of shares how these units are made and how each one is individually tested. Here's a list of the tools we're going to need. And the first step will be to shut off the propane at the source. In my case, it's a propane tank on the back. I went ahead and disconnected the pigtail just to make sure there's no propane in my system during this install. Our next step is to remove the main power supply wires to the cooling unit, the DC power wires, as well as the 120 volt AC. Here's the DC wires coming off, and here's the AC power being unplugged. Alright, next thing we gotta do is take off the LP gas line and put a plug in it. Works good to use 2 wrenches on this so you don't tweak or torque your line and bend it. I'm going to reconnect the propane system and hook things up and pressurize it. And I need to check and ensure that the plug I installed is airtight and we have no propane gas leaking. Here's some leak detector. I'm going to test all of my joints, all of my seals there. Look for any bubbles. If your cooling unit has any screws or fasteners in the back area, this is when you'll remove them. In my case, I had none. And now it's showing us to go ahead and start taking the fridge apart from the frame. There's 4 screws at the top and 4 screws at the bottom. I've chosen to take the doors off my fridge because my space is so tight. So it'll give me a few extra inches of wiggle room as I get the unit out and up against that couch. Next up, we've got 8 fasteners in the freezer and 8 fasteners in the fridge. I put on an extension to make this easier for myself. Next, we'll be removing some screws from the board and defrost cup. And then we'll head over to the gas solenoid and remove this guy with the 3 1/4-inch hex head screws. These next 2 pieces we're going to remove are called the Norcold recall kit and the low ambient temperature kit. Next, we will remove the igniter and the 120 volt black plug, both on the control box. We pull the board cover off to expose the 4 black heating element wires, which we remove next. Now we remove the last 4 screws, which free the cooling fan and the control board. Alright, now back up towards the upper portion of the cooling unit. We've got 4 screws that are holding on these 2 fans. We remove the 4 screws, free the fans, and then we disconnect them and set them aside. I have a plan to use these later, which I'll show you, but for now we just unplug them and set them aside. At the very top of the unit, we disconnect the 2 red wires from the temperature switch and pull the fan wires down to the bottom of the unit. back towards the center of the fridge is this metal bar. There's one screw on each side that we will remove and then remove the bar. Now we are ready to cut the cooling unit free of the box. It's essentially a square area, and a utility knife works well to cut around the edges and cut it free. And now we are removing the last 5 mounting screws holding the unit onto the box. Got my helper here helping me not lose these screws. Since my unit is on its side, I'm using the stool to support the top while I remove the last 2 screws from the bottom. Right down there. Thank you, Tucker. I appreciate the help. And the last one is hidden right down here where it's hard to get to. This is number 5. Five screws. Now the instructions say to lift the unit out and remove it from the box. Well, here goes nothing. Ooh! Little tug and bam, it is free. Make sure that if you have somebody helping you, you do not squish them.
There we go, dude. Look at that.
Okay, got my helper here. Here's
Hi.
Tucker, dude. He's helping me out, and we just got the cooling unit out here. And now you can see these are the metal plates where the heat is transferred to the freezer and for the fridge.
Foam.
Pretty cool. Yeah, this is the foam insulation. This chunky stuff here, this is the thermomastic, which will be reapplying to the new unit. This helps get a good seal between these plates and the fridge plates, so you can have that heat transfer. And yeah, so this is the old unit. This is absorption style with lots of heat, and we're going to be going to a pressurized residential style. So I'm excited. So see down here, there's no compressor down here. All we have is a heating tube there that heats up the gas inside of here. That heat is what moves the gas through the system, creates a cooling effect. We're going to be using 2 compressors on the next one to actually push the refrigerant through to create the cooling effect. So instead of using heat, we'll be using power. Pretty cool, man. One thing that is not in the instructions, but I would recommend, is this is a good opportunity to crawl into this little box where your fridge lives at and check it out and make sure that everything is ship shape. In my case, I had some gaps where some heat was escaping from the fridge area and getting into the bus. So I'm using this time an extra can of spray foam to fill these gaps and voids and cracks and make sure that the refrigerator's heat doesn't enter the bus, and instead that the heat exits up through the roof vent I have installed. We're now ready to begin cleaning and preparing the new install. My helper's over here with the scraper, getting all the old putty off, or the old thermomastic as it's called, off of the metal plates, allowing a good connection with the new unit to transfer the heat back and forth. We now have the freezer portion all cleaned off, but we need to go down and get the fridge. This one actually can be removed. We just pop it out. And this is a good chance for your helper to help you clean up your metal panels. This spot here, again, to ensure nice, good transfer of heat and to make the unit extra cold. Okay, now it's time to take the controller out of the packaging and get it prepped and started in the fridge box. Here's the controller with the white wire coming off. We stick it in the fridge there and run the wire out the back. Now it's time to do one last check and make sure that the back of our refrigerator box is clear of any objects. Make sure that the unit will sit flush. And right here I find a little piece of plastic that was adhered to hold old wires on the old unit. Now it's all flat and clean and ready for the new unit. Next up is, I think, one of the jobs I liked the least of this install. We have to apply this thermomastic to the back of the unit, and the material is very thick. So for this, I definitely recommend getting the strongest or the best caulk gun you can get to get this material out of the tube. I had pretty sore fingers by the time I was finished. The instructions say to use the whole tube, so here I am going back over spots to make sure that there's no gaps or voids. Just trying to use up the whole tube. Next, we throw a couple screws into the cooling unit, into the box, just to hold the unit in place as we begin to line it up for the attachment of screws from the inside. This photo shows where there's one screw in the fridge that we will not be using because we'll be using that later for a temperature sensing line. Again, here's a view of the freezer box with 7 of the 8 fasteners installed. Now it's time to install the 8 fasteners for the refrigerator fins. This metal plate can move back and forth to help you find the holes and to align it correctly. Now it's time to insert the freezer sensor. We'll be using that 8th hole in the freezer that we did not attach a screw through earlier. Took a little piece of metal to clean it out. Put this plug in the back, and we'll run the wire from the back, or the sensor and the wire from the back up to the front here. With the sensor inside the freezer, we attach it to the top shelf using the sensor clip, and then we place it a few inches from the back of the freezer to give it a steady temperature reading. Okay, now it's time to foam in the unit and to seal it. We'll be using a can of spray foam to spray around all 4 edges of the cooling unit to make sure you fill all gaps and voids. We didn't want any air to get into here. You see I insert the plunger as far deep as I can get it, stick it in there, give it a few squirts and wait for some to come out. And then move down an inch or 2 and repeat the process until we have foam coming out all of the cracks. Using some water here, the instructions on the spray foam say if you spray it with water, it'll help it to cure better. Okay, give it one good check over again and go over everything and make sure there's no gaps or spaces for air to get in, especially around the metal frame. So I go back over the unit and give it extra few squirts here and there, make sure I've got plenty of foam coming out, and make sure there's no chance of any spaces for air to get in. And next up, we'll be installing the metal tape, the foil tape around the edge. I've cut the foam flush with the box so that now we can put the tape on. And the tape itself is not an insulator, but it does help keep the unit clean and ensure that there's less of a chance for air to get in there. The last step for the cooling unit install is to fasten the defrost tray and finish the rest of the mounting screws for the unit. Okay, now it's time to wire and connect our control units. First off, we're going to come over here and remove about 12 inches of this white insulation from the wires, which will expose the 8 wires inside. The first two we're going to use will be the green and white wires, which go to the small compressor on the right side. I didn't show it, but we do have to crimp the 4 connectors for this small compressor, and for over here on the left larger compressor, we crimp the wires onto the yellow and blue wires. Each of these 2 pairs of wires will be the controls that run our compressors, both the large and small compressors for the unit. It's pretty cool. These units, I guess these compressors work individually, so they can maintain their own set points. Next, we follow the freezer temp sensor wire down, and we connect the purple and brown wire from the controller. These connectors at the bottom here is what we'll use. So follow those down, and then we find again that purple and brown wire. Next, from that 8-wire bundle, we'll find the red and black wire, and we'll connect those to these other pairs of red and black wires in the Wago connectors. Pretty simple. Red goes to red and black goes to black. These next few things I'll show you, but I've chosen not to do them. These are optional. First one is to hook up the warming or heating unit in the lower refrigerator flapper door. The flapper, I guess, heats up. Secondly would be to take these 2 wires here to essentially hardwire the interior fan to add extra ventilation. But the new control box has a pair of fans that run on all the time, so I've chosen not to add these extra items because this will increase the power consumption. What I did do, however, was to go through the back here with a lot of zip ties and begin cleaning up and trying to make the back not so messy. Trying to clean up the wires, connect them where I could. Definitely want to make sure your wires are not leaning against any spots that'll get hot, like the compressors or the heat exchanger above, and just give everything room to have access to get ventilation. One other thing that may apply to your unit, if you have a side discharge for your vent, this baffle will need to be cut out and removed to ensure you have enough airflow. Okay, it's exciting. We're getting closer to being done with our install. It's now time to install the box with the cooling unit attached to it back into our fridge hole, whatever you call this area. We're going to stick it back in there and get this unit hooked up. As you're pushing it back, make sure you don't pinch any wires. This is where a second person's helpful. But if it's just you, like this case, you can push it a few inches and go check and kind of work it back there.
My daddy is installing the fridge.
Almost kept this thing in there. 2 inches. Bottom's hitting something. There we go. Cool, dude. We have 4 mounting screws on the top of the fridge and 4 at the bottom. After installing the screws, now we can put our little black trim plates on. These each have 4 snaps that will snap into place. Here's the top. Pop, 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 pop. Next, we clip the controller to the right side of the refrigerator fins. If you have removed your doors, this is a good chance now to go ahead and put everything back together. And after installing the unit and the doors, we need to do a check here to make sure that everything is lining up correctly. The manual shares on what steps to take if a door is not fitting flush, and also recommends using some WD-40 or a silicone to make sure that the doors slide open smoothly and latch smoothly. It shows here the old mounting screws will typically be covered, but you can use these holes to add a couple screws to the back of your unit. If you haven't already done so, make sure you check your propane line is sealed and not leaking. And now it's time to go ahead and run or connect our wires. Don't forget to run a 10 gauge power wire if you don't have one already. The incoming power supply to the red bundle and the incoming negative cable to the black bundle. These last few pages of the installation manual show the controls of the control unit and just various information about any troubleshooting, any fault codes, and temperature settings. And voila, it's time for your life of leisure in the sun while you have ice cold food and drinks inside. Okay, time to power this thing up. So, we look in the manual here, it calls for a 30 amp fuse. Find that 30 amp fuse there. I did this before finishing the unit. You'll see the unit still outside. This was to make sure I had everything wired correctly. Take your fuse, drop it a couple times, try to lose it. Use those big old caveman hands and try and get that little thing right in the slot there. Find your RV fridge circuit, 30 amp fuse, ready to power on now. And I did this before putting the fridge box in because I wanted to make sure everything was wired correctly. That little switch up top powers it on, and it cycled on. I heard the compressors kick on, and it was good to go. Do you remember those two fans I pulled off earlier? Well, here I have wired them to this connector on the compressor. They go up to the top, and I've installed them in the roof vent. This way, whenever the compressors kick on, the fans will also kick on and pull heat out the top roof vent. Alright, so I got the cooling unit install finished a couple days ago. I don't know about you guys, but around my house with 2 kids on the summertime that aren't in school, there's just no getting work done. Got the river out the window here, and you can see I'm unplugged. RV is off grid. I've been out here for a few hours working on this video, and I just wanted to share. So here's the final result. I'll show you the fridge. The controller has a readout showing the temperatures. We'll go check it and see what it is. It's been unplugged for a couple of days now, just running on battery power. I do have some solar panels on top, so I'd argue that with a small to medium-sized battery bank, maybe some solar, I think this is a very viable option to have a cold refrigerator anywhere you go, even down here in the hot, humid South in the summertime. Let's go into the bus here, and we're gonna check out the fridge and see what the temperature's at. All right, let's check this thing out. There we go. Looks like 8 degrees in the freezer and 41 degrees in the fridge, just a few degrees above set point. Got a bag of ice here. Ice is hard. It's dry. It's not watery or wet. Nice dry, hard ice. There's our sensor. A little bit of ice crystals on the back there. This ice is a good, and a little bit of frost here is a good indication I need to clean my seals and make sure I've got a good seal on this thing. Nonetheless, with that seal not being ideal, still staying cold. So there you have it. The new cooling unit is working very, very well. Just a few degrees above set point, and that's because I opened it up a minute ago and let a bunch of this hot, moist air in there. So it'll cool back down and be cold again here in a minute. But working very well. It's definitely in the low to mid 90s right now. Very high humidity. I'm literally in the mangrove estuary out here, so it's swampy, it's hot, it's humid. The fridge is cold, which is nice. I'm gonna get back to finishing this video. I hope you found it helpful. We've done this before on an older RV, a similar unit from JC Refrigeration. great company. We got to know them very well. They're amazing people, very helpful. And of course, the unit's also made right here in the USA, which is pretty cool too. We got the bus behind me. We haven't named the bus yet. The bus isn't finished, but this is a bus RV conversion I'm making. So if you want to learn more about that, please do consider subscribing. I do hope in the future to make more videos showing the whole process of making this bus an off-grid RV. It's a Ford truck chassis. It's got pretty high clearance, pretty capable of going most places. Okay, Tucker's driving. Okay, look at that sneezing. Let's go straight a little bit. Yeah, turn. All right, we're driving. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.